I know it was a very big and interesting Congress, and of course we are all a little bit tired, but happy. So I would like to start by thanks Frodo and the Congress organization, of course, because I was there in the audience in the 2014 edition, and I've been amazed by what I've seen here. And so when Frodo asked me, do you want to do a speech? I said, wow, yeah, sure, what an honor, yeah. And then my brain started to think, and I thought, wow, I'm terrified. What can I talk about? That's serious. So Frodo told me, yeah, you just have to talk about what you know, how you work, why, etc., and it's going to be okay. So that's exactly what I'm doing to do now. I've tried to think a little bit about why am I doing this. My first question is why, and my first answer is because it's fun. I do light painting because it's fun for me. I try to avoid obligation and constraint and problems and to focus on what is fun for me. The second answer is, for me, it's a social activity. As long as I remember, I did not make a light painting session alone since years. It's always with people, and it's always a way to spend time with people. The third one is, it's a creative journey. And it's very interesting because each step from the first picture to my last one and my next one is interesting. I was very happy to do it. It's not about the destination, it's about the path to go to the destination. It's really a journey or a craft. Every day is learning something going on. I'm trying to be better now than I was last year, and I hope I'm worse now than I will be next year. It's a sort of a journey, really. And the last reason is it helped me to fight procrastination. I'm someone who did not, well, when I start to think about the things, I do not do anything. I just think and think and think again. So with light painting, I have to stop thinking and start doing. And it's very, very important for me because, I try to do with what I have, with the tool I have, the people I have, the location I have, and not try to prepare a picture for months or weeks because it never happens when I try that. So that's the why. And of course, there are the techniques. I try to build eye-catching or eye-candy picture by using most of these techniques. I'm pretty sure I did not invent anything, but I try to mix all of that and to get a picture from that. So I'm going to talk about these points more in details. I will not read all the list. You can read it, and I will go back on this point later. So, no, not the right one. Ooh. Yeah, okay. Social activity. Well, that's a picture that we have made during a barbecue while we were on a light painting session. And for me, that's exactly what light painting is. It's meeting friends, doing fun stuff with them, and having good time. So I will sorry? Okay. So let me explain how I came to the social activity part of the light painting. The first light painting picture I've seen was in 2012 through Flickr. And it was a picture from Nocturnal Kansas, this one. And he was the rabbit who drove me through the hole into the light painting wonderlands. It's the Flickr group Light Junkies. We already talked about that. And I spent hours and days to watch all the pictures there. I was amazed, but I was still just a viewer. The one who really get me in is this one. I was amazed. It was so creative. It required nothing, just ID and light. There is no sunshine or great location, just pure creativity. And I say, wow, I want to do that, because it's not serious, you know? It's very well, it's a great picture, but it's not pedantic or whatever, it's just creative. So back in 2012, Belgium was a light painting desert. It's still a little bit empty, but it's better now. So I've tried to find people who were doing light painting in Belgium, but I did not find anyone. But I found the website lightpaintingphotography.com from Jason DePage, and there are tutorials, and I've watched the tutorials, I've read the news, and I've tried to start and try things by myself, because, well, this is one of my first tries, and as you can see, it was immediately obvious that drawing was not going to be my thing. But it was so funny, so I was enjoying the time spent by doing it. So I've started to play with light source and going out at night to do light painting. And I was out once a week to do light painting. And after a few weeks, sorry, I have to wait because, well, I was alone doing light painting. And after a few weeks, a friend told me, hey, that looked cool. Can I go with you? Say, yeah, sure, come. And he come, and we spent a good light painting night, and it was fun. And then, well, next week, he brings a friend. So, slowly, we were more and more. And, well, they start to bring their friends, and people start to ask me through Flickr or Facebook, hey, that looked cool, can I come? Say, yeah, sure, come, play with us. And so there were more and more people, and it was fun. So I've started to plan it every week with people, and everyone who wants to come is allowed to come. And, well, sorry, it's a little, yeah. And we were more and more and more, so we could create big scene with a lot of people. And it was funny, so. But it does not end there. Sorry, the PowerPoint is a little bit slow. So we have more and more people, and it's still fun, and people start to go in and go out, and it's still fun. Everybody enjoy it, so they came back the next week, and they bring their own friends, and well, at the end. So Thursday became our official light painting evening every week, and it's like that since 2012. These days, I invite 60 people each week. Fortunately, they do not come, all of them, because, well, 60 is not manageable, but we are usually between 3 and 10, and it's very fun. It's not always the same people. The composition of the group is changing every week, and it's not a formal group. There is no member card or no fees to pay. It's not a photo club. It's a sort of a local community. And it's a very rich experience. There are lots of sharing in the group. We help each other to do the picture. And everyone brings someone. There are people who bring location, people who bring ideas, suits, props, expertise, techniques, tools, beer, jokes. All of that is creating a very good mood and a funny one. So it's like spending an evening at the bar with a bunch of friends. It's a funny activity, and everyone enjoys it. So let's talk now about a little bit of technique, the colors. I love colors. I love strong hues. But when there are too many colors in the scene, it becomes hard for me to harmonize them. So I try to use maximum 2 colors per picture, plus the black and white, of course. I usually pick a couple of complementary colors, like aquamarine and orange, one of my favorites. I cannot hide it. This is, well, maybe. Yeah. Dark orange and aquamarine, that's my favorite combo. But any couple of complementary color match and can be used, like purple and green, for instance. I also try to use a combination of warm color and cold color to create a visual contrast between the background and the subject. So here, it's warm on the subject and cold background. It creates, for me, it creates sympathy for the subject because it's warm. But according to the mood I want to give, you can also use exactly the opposite, which is cold color on the subject and a warm color on the background. So, as much as possible, I try to avoid the pure red, green, blue color for 2 reasons. The first one is aesthetic. I'm not a big fan of the pure red, green, blue. But the second one is technical. I'm pretty sure that our digital sensor does not like the pure RGB color. To be honest, I have no scientific proof of that, but empirically, well, I've tried, I've made tests, and it appeared that they are very, very quickly oversaturated, overexposed. And at my opinion, there are less textures, there are less details when a surface is lit with a pure RGB color. So, of course, I'm not a big fan of the classic 4-color flashlight because, well, you do not have the choice of the color. That's the pure RGB color. And if someone wants to build a 4-color flashlight with, well, for instance, aquamarine and orange, and then maybe neon blue and pink, yeah, I would be glad to buy one, of course. So usually I'm working with pure white flashlight and, of course, sheets of gelled color. They are strong. They are highly saturated color, which is great. It creates strong colors, but the problem is it kills a lot of light. So I need powerful flashlight because a lot of light stay blocked in the sheet. So another part of the picture is the location. Maybe. Location, yeah, right. Alors, well, location are an important part of my picture. I try to use unusual and preferably spectacular locations. If the location is interesting, half of the job is already done. And, well, like Dan, I'm a little bit lazy. So if the location can do the job for me, it's perfect. Of course, I try to interpret the location. I do not use the location exactly as they are. I try to create my own idea of the location. Here it's this jockey location on the dance floor. And of course, it does not look like a disc jockey location on a dance floor. It's my own interpretation of the location. So most of the ideas came from the location itself. And yeah, sorry, it's a little bit. We are going there in a minute. Yeah, right. Most of the pictures I've made are improvised on location. They are not prepared before and then, okay, find a location to do the picture. It's more finding a location, going there, and then, okay, now I may do this and that, or try this, etc. It's improvised on location. So, in Belgium, we do not have a beautiful shore like you have here in Asturia. That's the Belgium shore. Not exactly the place where you want to take picture. Are you okay? You want water? Okay. We do not have mountain, neither. That's the highest point of Belgium. We do not have desert. We never see the Milky Way. Belgium is a very cloudy country. So, and of course, when your sky looks like this, the full moon does not help. It just makes the cloud brighter. It's not helping. And we have a lot of light pollution. So the light pollution has an orange hue, which is reflected by the clouds. And our night sky look like this. Exactly. It's not a custom white balance or whatever. It's a pure Belgian sky. So, well, we have to do... Okay, translation. Okay. And it's also a rainy country. So usually outdoor light painting is not an option. But we have a lot of abandoned places. We have mines. We have quarries. Well, soon. Yeah, quarries. Okay. Sorry, this part is a little bit slow, but it's... Yeah, yeah. I did not break any fence to enter this place. They are open to public. Well, you have advice to not enter, but well, who cares? We have castle, and of course we have industrial sites. Soon. Oh, Covens. Yeah, I forgot Covens, sorry. It was a Christian country too. Yeah, come on. Yeah, industrial sites. So Belgium used to be an industrial country. Steel and coal were our two main resources. But now ruins, abandoned place, are one of our main resources. With beer, chocolates, and special drug cocktails for sportmen. It's also a Belgian specialty. So I do with what I have, and most of our light painting sessions take place in abandoned location. And of course now, and it's recent, it's new, I try to avoid place where there are some copyrighted structures. I had to remove some of my picture from the from the social networks because I was using a copyrighted structures in a public space. So I do not know exactly how the law is here in Spain about the public space, but, well, be careful. And I won't do it twice because I had to remove the picture and, well, I prefer abandoned places. At least nobody complained. So, let's talk about, well, how I try to compose the picture. As I've said, the location are a component of my picture. They have a role in the picture. I'm, well, a little bit too soon, but, well, I will not go back. I mostly shoot large scene with a wide angle. I'm not exactly a photographer of the intimacy. You do not see exactly the people in the picture. But I try to always have someone in the picture because it gives a scale to the scene. And it helps the viewer to get how big or large the scene is, or the place. I try to apply the traditional composition rules for general photographic, the rule of third with crossed line. Yeah, when I have two, yeah, okay. Or I can, and that's something I usually do, it's centered with symmetry. I love symmetry too, so it's always a good thing for me to have a picture centered with symmetry. I try to balance the visual weight of the different part of the picture, of course, as in general photography. And I try to have my subjects on the bottom third line or on the top third line. Here it's not exactly a good example, but yeah. Usually I think the composition in a 60:9 format. That's for two reasons. The first one is I usually publish on the web, and the web is viewed on a screen. So the 60:9 match the computer screen, the TV screen. That's the first reason. But the second one is it makes the scene larger. The ratio between the height and the width make the scenes larger. And I love large scenes. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about storytelling. I try to have a storytelling in my picture. Not all, but when I can, I try. And exactly like for the composition, I try to respect the photographic rules for the storytelling. So in photography, the past is the left side of the picture, and the future is the right side of the picture. So when there is an action, the action should, for me, goes from the left part to the right part. Exactly like we read a book from the left to the right, the action should go this way. And that's for the technical part of the storytelling. Of course, I have a set of characters that I like to use to tell stories, and my favorite is death. Yeah, why not? This character is inspired by the Discworld book series from Terry Pratchett. It's not a gothic emo trip. In the book, Death is described as a really funny character, but with a great sense of humor, a dark sense of humor, of course. But that is also a very touchy subject for people. So I try to use this character with caution. When I put him on a scene, I never put violence, blood, or gore things. He's just here, and his presence is sufficient. I try to create a theatrical context around him. And sometimes, when I find a funny idea which matches with his sense of humor, I try to create a scene with that. Maybe. Maybe, yeah. This last week, I tried to create open storytelling. Open, it means I put a weird element in the scene, but I do not tell the whole story. I let the viewer imagine what the story is. And it's very, very interesting because in the comments, people leave comments with their own interpretation of the picture. And it's like a giant Rorschach test. We already speak about Rorschach yesterday, I think. But it's very funny to see how the same scene can be seen as peaceful or frightening by two different people. Even to skip something, it's going to be long.
What do you mean by sharpness?
It's neat picture, very sharp, you know, sharpness. There are two things for that. I'm going to go fast with that part. There are two components, a technical one, which is the lens and the aperture of the lens. Each lens have a different set of aperture where the sharpness is at its best. Go. Yeah. That's not the not funny technical thing. Each lens has its own set of aperture where the sharpness is at its best. For my lens, it starts at 5.6 and it goes to, well, f11 a little bit more. Of course, that's a problem with the fireworks. Oh, nothing to do there. My bad. It's a problem with the fireworks. The fireworks are brighter, usually brighter than f16. And then the diffraction starts to make the picture less sharp. So I have to use an ND filter, a neutral density filter, just to fight the problem. Okay, and the second problem is not technical, it's about the light. Because even with the best aperture, I still have some blurring part in my picture, and it was related to the models. They were moving, they were shaking, they were breathing, and that was a problem. So my first idea was to paralyze them with cyanide, or to give them drugs to stop shaking, but they did not agree about that. So I tried to find a better way to solve the problem, and I've, found the scanner things. This is a ring binder. It has exactly the good shape to be a good scanner. A scanner is a short line of, well, you have something to light? Yeah, this one. It's a short line of light So you can light a model really fast, and even if it's breathing or shaking or moving, it's okay. It works. Well, you can exactly do it yourself. It's less than €1 to get the whole packet with the tape and all the helpful things. So I'm going to show you an example of a scene lighted with the scanner. But if you do not like clowns, especially awful clowns, or if you're a child, please close your eyes now. I'm going to wait 10 seconds for the translation. Yeah, okay. Here we go. So, well, on the screen it's not so nice, but on Flickr it's better. All the forefront part, the clone, the bench, the rocks, the grass, is light with the light scanner. The rest is lighted with a classic flashlight. So if all the picture could be as sharp as this one, I would be more than happy, but it's not always the case. So now for the clown hater and the children, I'm going to switch to a nice and sweet picture. So you can reopen your eyes. Okay? Okay. So let's talk about one of my favorite things. Maybe. Backlight. Backlight is my religion. If I cannot do a backlight, I die a little bit inside. Backlight is my favorite lighting of every lighting. It reveals all the textures, all the volumes. It traces silhouettes. It detaches the subject from the background. And for me, it's magic. Backlight is magic. I try to do the backlight far from behind the subject when it's possible to get very long shadows from the feet, from the legs, coming through the camera. And usually, I insist a little bit with the light on the floor, right behind the model, to create a sort of, what's the name? A brighter area around him. And it's an eye-catching technique, because when you see the picture, your eyes are, you are looking for the brightest part first. So even when there is no model, I can use backlight to light a scene. Of course, it's easier when you have a model, because you can hide behind the model to light the scene. But if there is no model, I just use a big cardboard. Where is it? Know exactly where the light is going to go, and not showing the light source from the camera. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So where is no model, I can still use the backlight to light a scene. Here, it's a scene which is lighted without model, but with a full backlight. Watch the shadows of the pipes. You know, there are pipes there on the wall. And if you watch the shadows, you know where the light comes from. And I've lighted the whole scene from the back of the tunnel, well, the middle of the tunnel. But to hide the light source, I use the big cardboard things. And I can do the full backlight from the middle of the tunnel without having the light source which is visible. I try to going faster. Yeah, I still have a lot of, no. Yeah, faster. Smoke. Well, smoke, when it's combined with backlight, for me, it's going close to the visual orgasm. That's my favorite things ever. I had a lot of fantastic surprise with that. I did not know it's going to look like this, but at the end it's a very great surprise. Smoke is like a giant diffuser for the light. When the light ray enter in the smoke, it starts to diffuse. So when I want to keep the silhouettes of the model as dark as possible, I try to put the smoke bomb 2 or 3 meters away from the model, behind the model. So for the model, it's easier to breathe because he does not have the smoke bomb on his feet. And it helps to keep the silhouette really black, because if the smoke is around the model, then the light starts to reflect on the smoke and try to light the model. So I love also to mix colors in the smoke. Here it's a wide red beam and a very focused orange beam on the back of the model. So both colors are merging in the smoke, and it creates things that I love, graduation of colors. I can also use the smoke to project the shadows inside the smoke. So here you can see if the light source does not move, the shadows of the subject is projected in the smoke, and you have the line from the fingers and the hands that are traced in the smoke. I usually use smoke pellets because there is no light. When you burn them, there is no fire, there is no lighting point, and it's easier because you do not have to manage the problem of seeing the smoke bomb. You could also use an electronic cigarette. Let's do this. Yeah, it's a very smoke bomb. I'm going to go faster. Floor. Yeah. Floor is also a very funny tool. To freeze the floor in the air, I use a strobe, but throwing floor by hands is highly unpredictable. So it's not easy to synchronize the thrower and the flash and the strobe. So it's even more complex when there is someone which is jumping during the shooting, because, well, you have 3 people to synchronize. It requires a lot of trials and error, and it's really funny because at the end everyone is full of floor, all white. There are floor everywhere, on the floor, on the models, on the camera, on the lens, everywhere. It's a mess. But the air become full of floating particles of floor, and that's also something which can be used with the laser. If there are some floor particle in the air, the laser ray became visible. And floor particles are easier to manage than the smoke. So you can choose which part of a laser ray you want to be visible on your image. With smoke, it usually goes everywhere, and you do not exactly choose where it goes. But with the floor, throwing floor on a laser ray, then you can decide which part of the laser ray will become visible. But floor, when it's vaporized, is also highly explosive. So I try to never use floor and fireworks or fire because, well, it's dangerous. So, too long. we are going to talk about one of my other favorite subjects, which is fireworks. Since I was a kid a long time ago, I've always loved fireworks, but I was a good kid, so I was never allowed to light or to play with fireworks when I was a kid. And using fireworks is one of my favorite foolishness. I love when there is a small silhouette surrounded by a large explosion, a violent burst of sparks which comes from the subject and explode with grandiloquence. And I'm pretty sure my psychotherapist would have loved this sentence. Anyway, what can I tell about fireworks? First, don't do it. So, if you do it anyway and something goes wrong, don't blame me. I'm kidding, of course, but let's be clear, fireworks are dangerous. It burns. Someone could be hurt. It could start a fire. It could explode in your hands. We all know the risk, and we all know the safety rules. They are written on every fireworks product, usually in Chinese. I try to select fireworks products which does a single effect and a single color. A single effect because it's more predictable. I know how the product is going to react and how long it will last. So if there is no surprise, the risk of accident is lower. Single color product because with fireworks, each color has its own light intensity, and there are huge differences between the colors. So it requires a very high dynamic digital camera to be able to capture all the fireworks color without overexposure or underexposure. It's not easy to find good fireworks products. I had the chance, in my town, I found someone which is also a creator of big fireworks for celebration, and he's a very passionate guy, a sort of a craftsman about fireworks. So when I've told him about my project to shoot fireworks rockets inside a cooling tower, he did not call the police. It helped me to choose the product, and that's the result. And by the way, if you ever plan to shoot fireworks inside a cooling tower, don't forget your earplugs. 2 minutes. Yeah, okay. Okay. So, yeah. I will publish the full text on the internet, so, but let's keep all this part.